In today's episode, I address the topic of instant gratification, why it is like a curse of our today's society, and how you can reframe it in your mind and fall in love with basically the opposite, with delayed gratification. Hello and welcome to the Successful, Sensitive and Intuitive Entrepreneur podcast. My name is Lydia Sophia Wilmsen and I am an intuitive success mentor for sensitive entrepreneurs. In this podcast, I speak about the challenges sensitive and intuitive entrepreneurs face. I offer you new perspectives and solutions, as well as experiences of other entrepreneurs. Plus, I speak about my personal experience of being a highly sensitive person who has successfully built and scaled 2 businesses. All of that with the goal to make you and your business even more successful in your very unique and authentic way. Have fun and enjoy. And just to forewarn you, this episode will be a little bit graphic, as I will draw some comparisons between pleasure, sex, and business. And I'm quite ambitious as well with this episode because I want you to change your whole perspective on business success and how to get there. Okay, so let's start with the detriment of instant gratification. What do I mean with that? In today's world, we have instant access to almost anything nowadays. That means contact with other people. You can just pick up the phone, call someone. You have all the ways through internet to contact other people. You have instant access to information. You have quite instant access to food from around the world. You can just go to the supermarket, buy stuff there. You can have it delivered to your house. And you can go to places in quite short time frames nowadays. Just imagine walking or taking a horse for the distances we travel in hours nowadays. What we can travel by plane, this took months in earlier times. Investing money, this is easy, In former times, you had to take your bags of gold and bring it somewhere. And today, just like with one click, your huge sums of money can be transferred and invested in something. Buying things, whatever you want, you can have it in an instant and delivered in hours to you. Streaming series, hey, Netflix, Amazon, you don't have to wait anymore. Do you remember the times when you had to wait for the next episode to come out? And 1 week later, you met up with your girlfriends to watch whatever, the next episode of Sex and the City. And today you can just binge watch that, and I for sure have done that. A whole series in one day. Social media is built on the quick fix. It is really addiction setting. It is built on creating addiction to instant gratification. If you're bored, you just scroll around in Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. It is built. It has mechanics to keep you there, to keep you hooked, to keep you looking for the instant gratification, taking your mind off things and seeing the next post. You want more and you want more. And also creating stuff, building houses. They can be built in one day. There are ready-made houses which can be put up in one day, in one freaking day. And there were times, hundreds of years ago, where they, for example, built cathedrals over several generations. Some of the longest ones, it took like over freaking 200 years. Just imagine that. Just imagine the times we live in today. It is instant gratification. And go to business. The same happens there. Like your feed is filled up with making 6 figures in 3 months, become successful tomorrow, just download that one freebie and you'll become rich. We want the results now. So what's the curse? What is the problematic side of that? Because of course, it can be really nice to have something now. But what we don't have anymore is the opposite. We don't have the balance anymore. We are used to get everything in the moment. And with that, what gets lost is satisfaction. We want more and more. We can't cope with waiting anymore. And this takes away a big part of the experience. Having everything at your fingertips doesn't make people more happy. There are studies on correlation between material wealth and happiness. And it stops at some point. There is no increase in happiness in people anymore after a specific amount of money what people make. And even though I don't say that you have to stop adding beauty and wealth to your life, quite the opposite. You know me. I'm all about conscious millionaires and even billionaires, conscious billionaires. I want to help create conscious billionaires on this planet. And I don't say once you continuously make 6 figures, you have to stop. Not at all. No, what I want to make you see is to look at the process and experience and see the experience you have to indulge in again. It is not about the end result as much as the experience in between. And this is what is being taken from us, what we let take from us. And there is a difference in experience between instant and delayed gratification. Life gets faster and not necessarily more fulfilled. It gets so fast that people don't feel it with their senses anymore. Especially for sensitive people like you, this is an issue. Like action movies nowadays, they are so fast, your eyes even can't fully take them in anymore. And the same with everything else in our society. Speed overwhelms us. And sensual awareness, comes with experience of time. There is a reason why we experience linear time, even though we are the only species who does, and it's kind of an illusion. However, we experience it, and this correlates with sensual awareness or with the ability to be aware and to feel with our senses. And nowadays, life is only fast. And this is, by the way, why people crave retreats and peace and meditation and yoga and so on. This is why that is a billion-dollar industry. Okay, you probably guessed it. This is the problematic side of instant gratification. There is no enjoyment of the present moment anymore, and we want more. Instead of enjoying what we have and feeling, very important, feeling the longing for what we want to have. Wanting more and loving that sweet spot of not having it yet. This is where pleasure starts and the feeling of aliveness. And now comes the fun part. Changing your perspective on waiting for something to happen. Yes, I know I say stop the waiting pattern. And there is a difference. The waiting pattern means you're sitting there, you're coming from a place of lack instead of desire. And you are waiting for the time to pass instead of experiencing the time and feeling it and becoming alive in that time. So today I am the advocate of delaying, of waiting, of expecting. Because in that time, something important happens. Obviously, if you do the work, if you just sit around and do nothing, no. You need to fill up that time with energy, basically. And here I want to bring the topic of sex into the game. The understanding of pleasure, of orgasm in our world is, in short, that there is arousal and then an orgasm, which most often is a quick release of built-up energy. For most people, it is a quick experience, like seconds. And more people who do the work understand that our imagination of an orgasm can be so much more. The experience, the imagination and the experience. And you see, there it is the same. Most of people see it as basically instant gratification. They see it as something quick. Or at least the experience, And there are different type of orgasms out there. And most people stop with with a quick fix, basically. And there are orgasmic states out there instead of orgasmic peaks. So it's not a peak experience anymore, but a peak state. You can reach an orgasmic state which lasts for minutes and even hours. And it can become even a transcendental experience, a spiritual experience, an opening, a spiritual awakening, or an opening up of your consciousness. And there are many more ways of experiencing it than what our fast-paced society knows and propagates. There is a far beyond to what people live by, also in their sexual lives. You know that I am all about living a life of more, experiencing more, wanting more. What does not mean more in all the material stuff, which is nice. However, the more is basically about experience. And so it is in your sexual life. And the question now is, you might wonder how to get there. And this is actually a business podcast and not a sex education podcast. But for the reasons of going back to business in a moment, because you can compare them. Just some hints for your sexual lives. One important factor is your breathing and your voice. And you know, I'm not an expert on this. And right now I am talking basically from the female perspective. So it's about breathing, about your voice. It's about awakening your senses. And for people who start out on that journey, all that breathing, and you know, it might feel like now it takes much longer to orgasm in the beginning. You know, it's this feeling of, oh my goodness, like when does it come? Basically, this feeling of instant gratification of this, I want the result now. However, now comes the most important part of this episode. In this process, when we take it back to sex, of using your breath and filling yourself up with energy through that life force, which your breath is, this will create the possibility of entering an orgasmic state and not a peak experience anymore. The experience will be something totally different, like not from this planet. So through taking time, basically like waiting in business, and through filling yourself up with energy in that process, in that waiting time, so to say, the results will not be comparable anymore. So you put in the work in sex, breathing, sensual awareness, all of that. In business, I will explain that in a moment, what you put in. And you will reach a plateau of pleasure as a gift. You will reach a plateau. You will reach a state instead of a peak experience. Instant gratification means, bam, there it is. Short-paced happiness. It's gone in a minute and you want something new. And instead, we can reach a state of immense happiness, a state of pleasure, whatever we're speaking about. A huge part of pleasure is desire, yearning, teasing, not giving in directly on what the other person wants or what you want, if you're speaking if you're with yourself only. So sexual tension builds over the day, builds over the time. You know? How many people just experience that in the bedroom? And no, it's not like people need to understand you can expand all of your experiences. Human beings are so limited. It is really crazy. So you need to start seeing everything as pleasurable. Start enjoying everything and honoring it, honoring the pleasure you're feeling. And this will change the whole experience, the whole sexual experience. And fast can be amazing too. It's not about that. However, we have lost connection with experience and deeper experience. What we experience in nowadays world, it's shallow. And what I want you to understand to go deeper. And also, if we have fast experiences in our quickies or something in our sexual lives, also that will become a different experience if it really built on the energy which was built up before. And if we shift it back to business, huge success in business, like a 1 day 100K cash day, like that you make 100K in a day. If there wasn't a build up before, it won't be as pleasurable. It will be like, wow, 100K in a day, whoa. And very quickly it will fade again. And you probably had this experience. It was when I had my first 5K month, my first 10K, 20, 25, 30, It was, in the beginning, especially in the beginning, it was like, okay, now I had my first 10K month. It was a short-lived experience of happiness. And this happens to my clients as well. And this is what we want to shift. I want you to experience those states of pleasure and happiness in business as well. And not only peak experiences. A big part of that, of being able to experience that, is the desire, the wanting, the positive expectation, like little children, they don't celebrate Christmas in one evening where they unpack the presents. No, this is a month of built up energy, of built up joy. The imagination is a big part of it, the visualization, the being in the scenario in front of your inner eyes. Like, experience it in front of your inner eyes. This is a huge part of it. And when you live a turned on life, everything adds to that peak state. If you're frustrated and want that one sale to make you happy, that will be quite a shallow experience. Puff and gone. Now I want the next. So I want you to shift your idea of waiting for it to happen and working towards your goal as an energetic and physical practice. And if you do that, it will shift your whole experience. If you just want the result, it will be shallow. And if you understand the whole process as building up energy, then you will start enjoying the process. The waiting time, the waiting for it to happen, this needs to be filled up with positive expectation, with living in the end scenario already, with seeing it in front of your inner eye. And seeing the work you put in, the daily work you do, as putting energy into the whole process so that basically the result will be a peak state and not a peak experience anymore. So how do you increase pleasure throughout the day in business? It means seeing everything that happens as something, like everything good that happens, and put more awareness on it. The small sale you make, the small money you make, live that experience. Be extremely joyful about that. Don't wait for the next thing to happen, but experience it in that freaking moment and celebrate it. It's like when we go back to sex. It's not like you can say, I was reading a book from Ayal Matzlia. He says like orgasm is the union of pleasure, surrender, and consciousness. And he points out that all sensual awareness, all sensual pleasure, and if it's just touch, like start seeing that as a mini orgasm instead of waiting for the big thing. Start seeing the small pleasurable events as mini orgasms. And the same in business. See all the small things which happen as mini amazing things, as mini business orgasms, so to say. If someone reaches out to you, if someone is interested, if someone says, perhaps next month. So all the things you for now took for, again, this wasn't a sale. This person didn't say yes. Shift that. Everything that happens, start seeing it as a pleasurable thing happening in your business. Oh, that person reached out. Oh, that person wanted to know more, even though they didn't sign up. Feel the pleasure in them having reached out, in having sent you a message, having been in contact with that person. The new idea you're having, whether you follow up with it or not, see it as something adding pleasure, adding happiness energy to your business. Like, I love to work with the energy of pleasure, because pleasure is not something which, like, pleasure can be a state of life, experience, sensual experience, especially for you as a highly sensitive person. You have to start living that experience more. And yes, you can have those experiences in business and celebrate longer, feel it longer. Even the perhaps painful states, if someone says no, feel them, like engage your senses. Start seeing the work you put in, and really only do the work you like. Like in sex, do the things you like. You don't have to do anything you don't like. And in business as well. Everything you don't like, you don't do anymore, or you have someone else do that, like outsource. And enjoy every part of it. Enjoy everything you're doing and understand it as life, like breathing life into your business. Like in sex, what I said, breathing is such a huge catalyst for amazing orgasmic states. And in business, it's the work energy you put into there and the being states. So start putting focus on that. It is really a shift. It is a focus shift and it is a perspective shift. And when you start experiences, those times of desire, of longing for that new client who pays you next level prices, instead of like, oh, is this person going to pay those prices? No, go into a state of desire, of yearning, it coming from that place of being in that reality already. And everything that happens, see that as evidence for you being on your path. And in that way, it is not a waiting pattern anymore. It is not the time of waiting anymore, but intense pleasure, intense feeling of aliveness. So I want you to see business not in like, this is my goal, and in that time, I will have fulfilled the goal, I will have reached it, and then I'm happy. I want you to take pleasure into the period in between. And with that, you will understand the concept of delayed gratification. Instant gratification means you get a quick fix, it's shallow, it's quick. Delayed gratification means you can build up that energy. You can increase those energy to levels beyond what you knew was possible. And the result will not be a quick fix, also in business, but a state. Basically an orgasmic state, a pleasurable state in business. The whole experience of business will be a different one. And if you shift that, you are playing on a different level. You're playing on a very different level than most of people out there doing business. The same with sex. Once you start into that process, you play on a different level. And not many do. So if you already have experiences with that, welcome to the club. You are like one of the 1%ers or something in the world. My dear one, that was my message for you today. Away from instant gratification and instead understanding the process of building up energy, having pleasure right now with whatever happens, engaging your senses and increasing pleasure in business right now, because this means building up energy so that you reach a state beyond everything you knew was possible. Did you like this podcast episode? Then I would be super grateful if you gave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. And please subscribe to the podcast and share it with people who you know can benefit from it. You can find all links to my social media profiles, my website and contact form in the show notes. And whenever you're done playing on your current level and you're ready to embrace a life of more, a life of full-on experiences, ready to unapologetically go for your biggest dreams in business and life, message me and I'll get back to you with more info on how to make it happen. Thank you for listening, and until the next episode, much love to you, Lydia.